Hey guys, today I have a Meli chats, and today I wanted to talk about why hurt people hurt people. And I feel like a lot of people use this phrase, but nobody really gets into what it is or why it is. And basically, to me, people who are suffering, and it could be something big or small, and they internalize these things and maybe don't get it out, they sometimes can lash out and treat others wrongfully or even act a certain way because of what they are struggling with. I know that for me, I suffered a lot when I was going through my infertility journey, and I feel like during that time, I internalized that so much to the point that like I had a few panic attacks and everything because I wasn't really like sharing my struggle with anyone. I wasn't really talking to anyone about it. I just kept like, it's gonna happen. I'm gonna be strong. Like I kept trying to just put my pride down and it's gonna happen. And I felt like during that time, I was very sensitive towards other people. Anything would set me off. I, kind of was like snippy with a lot of people. And looking in hindsight, I'm like, that inner struggle of like going through infertility was eating away at me to the point that, I felt that I was not myself in a lot of aspects. And I feel like on the daily, we see this with a lot of people. And it could be a plethora of different things that they are struggling with, whether it be their marriage, just internal battles of things that they want to change about themselves, things at work, different people. And a lot of times, instead of finding help or trying to work on themselves, people will lash out at other people. And I feel like everybody at some point has been in that situation. And sadly, we oftentimes will, if you're on the receiving end, you feel that that person is attacking you, that person, what they're saying is true. For example, on YouTube, you get a lot of hate comments, or you get people spewing hate towards you on social media, which is something so common nowadays. And a lot of times those people, what they're criticizing, what they're picking on, the hateful things that they're saying is a reflection of them, not who they're directing that towards, but of them. And I feel like that's super just true on all aspects of life, whether that be at work, at home, whatever it is. What comes out of your mouth and how you treat others is a reflection of you always. And we're all going to have our bad days. We're all going to go through situations, but that is something that you have to learn to vocalize and be like, hey, I'm struggling with this. I'm trying to work on it. And, that way I feel like people will be more empathetic towards you than for you to, for example, let's say you're struggling with your weight and you really want to lose weight, and a girl puts this before and after transformation, and people, you always see somebody like, oh, she still has cellulite, or she still does this, or she's not fully like where she needs to be, like they will nitpick at the most negative thing. And more than likely that person internally is struggling with something, whether it be their own weight or something personally, and they are, projecting onto that person on the internet or someone in real life. And you don't realize that this person is doing it. And a lot of times that's what it is. People will project their hurt and their anger and what they're going through onto other people. And so if you are one of these people who is hurting, it's best to find help, whether it be in your spouse, a therapist, a friend, someone to talk with. Find self-help books, self-help podcasts, YouTube videos. There's so much out there to kind of help you balance these things out. And, you can find other ways of like releasing this, whether it be a hobby, all kinds of different things that you can do to just kind of get your mind in the right place. I have to say that I recently kind of realized this with somebody that I knew, and it really kind of made me more empathetic towards them, just to think that I kind of realized that this is what they're struggling with. And for a while there, I felt like, why is this person being like this? Like, why are they always like this towards other people? Or why do they always say certain comments? And I'll get to the story soon about that person, but that really opened up my eyes to think like, hey, hurt people, and this person was struggling and is probably still struggling, and this is one of the reasons that they project onto other people. And we see this all the time. And so a lot of times when you see somebody spewing hate like this, or, you know, acting a certain way, just realize that everyone's going through their own battle, and a little bit of kindness goes a long way. Or if not, if kindness doesn't go anywhere with it, because I know sometimes things can be limited, I would say then, you know, set a boundary and like ignore and space, you know, take a space from this person. But for the most part, it's good to kind of reflect and to know that it's not about you. Okay, now I want to get into my little story to kind of give you guys an idea or an example of like hurt people. I have this acquaintance, we are no longer even acquaintances, but this person constantly, anytime somebody had issues, anytime somebody was, you know, not having a good day, because not everybody's going to be a ray of sunshine every single day, this person always would talk about other people in a sexual nature. And what I mean by that is, if somebody was not having a good day, they would always say like, oh, that's because they're not getting any, they haven't had any, you know, things like that in that kind of regard. And it kind of makes me upset with myself, because a lot of times I would think like, oh, they're so funny, like they just mean that in a like funny way. But at the end of the day, now in hindsight, I'm like, no, they were being shady and being mean to other people. And talking about these people behind their back, talking about like anytime somebody would have any kind of issues, they would immediately say that this person had issues in their marriage, issues in their relationship, and they would constantly say this about everyone. And now in retrospect, I'm like, huh, that's funny. And you know, it starts to open up your eyes and to really realize that they weren't talking about other people, they were talking about themselves. And I see that now. I realize that, you know, completely now. And I started to realize that when we had a serious conversation one day, and the person told me that they, you know, were a little bit frustrated because they hadn't had any kind of intimacy with their partner, and hardly ever had intimacy with their partner all the time. Like this was a constant struggle that they had with their partner, was that they didn't have intimacy with them because sadly their partner has a health condition and struggled with it. And it seems to me that he's impotent and or has ED, one or the other. But you know, when they told me about this, I was like, oh, I'm sorry for that, you know. But then as time progressed and things evolved over time, I realized that they're projecting this onto other people. They constantly say those comments. They constantly jab at other people's relationships, other people's marriages because of that, because I feel like they are projecting what they are going through. And I share this story because of that, because I want you guys to see that this person is hurting and they are trying to be hurtful towards other people and say these negative things and talk about these people's love lives or all these different aspects of these people's lives, which I'm sure they know nothing about. They know nothing about any of their love lives, whether they're having sex, not having sex, being intimate, not being intimate with somebody. And they don't realize that they're actually projecting what they're living through. And I feel like that's what they were going through. And I even realized this more so when we had an issue. And the first thing that they told me was, oh, if you have issues with your husband, don't take it out on me. And at first I was like, wait, what? And to be honest, we don't have a relationship nowadays, but it made me reflect and realize they're not talking about me. It actually makes me feel empathy and feel bad for them, because I feel like they are projecting what they're living through, what they're going through onto other people, including myself, because they know nothing about my marriage. I don't talk to people about my marriage for the most part. I keep my private life private because that's the way I like to keep my life. I just feel like that is another video that I need to do on why you should keep your life private. And it really made me reflect and realize, and every time I see them now, I think to myself, they're just projecting, you know? And I'm sure that this person's probably, you know, still talking about people the same way, still, you know, making these remarks and talking about people's relationships without knowing about them, but it's actually a reflection of them and what they're struggling with. And it's probably because of what their husband is going through, which reflects on their relationship. So sadly, in life, we are going to bump into a lot of people who are hurt. And like I said in the beginning, hurt people. And this is why, because they project what they're going through and what they're struggling with and project it onto others. And we just have to be mindful when we're the ones going through that. Sometimes we are oblivious to it. And that's why it's good to talk about what you're going through. And I just talked about being private, but you, I'm sure, have at least one family member, one friend, or if not, a therapist, online community, whatever it is, like, even if you have to stay anonymous, whatever it is, like someone that you can reach out to about what you're struggling with. Like, for example, when I was going through infertility issues, it helped me a lot to join like Facebook groups where other women were struggling through that same issue. And I feel like when you find those communities, and you will find just so many on Facebook, groups of like breastfeeding or infertility or whatever struggle you're going through, I'm sure you can find a video on YouTube, a Facebook group, somewhere where you can relate to someone, a self-help book, you know, like not necessarily it has to be like talking to someone. If you need to talk to someone, you can pay for a therapist. You know what I mean? Like there's so many aspects to finding help. But I just wanted to share that story because I just feel like a lot of times we concentrate on why this person is like that, and we don't really kind of reflect as to, wait a minute, they're projecting, they're hurt, and that's why they're trying to hurt other people. Anyways, I hope that this was helpful. Thank you guys so much for watching, for subscribing, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye guys.